I'm Linda Carter, 22 years old, and today's valedictorian. I've poured 4 grueling years into endless all-nighters, clinging to that flawless GPA, and juggling 2 jobs just to fund my biomed engineering degree. This morning was supposed to be flawless. But here I am, frozen, staring at my phone, my heart pounding as I read the text from my parents. Sorry, honey. We're too tired from the business trip. Won't make it today. My gut twists like a knife as I scroll through Instagram, only to halt dead at my mother's latest post. There they are, beaming with my sister, Cassandra, clinking champagne glasses at some lavish spa. Relaxation day with our beautiful girl. The caption taunts. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to catch the moment when I finally decided I was enough, even without their approval. Growing up in our middle-class suburban home in Grand Rapids, Michigan, I always sensed my place in the family pecking order. My parents, Michael and Diana Carter, never tried to mask their blatant favoritism for my older sister, Cassandra. Our house wasn't exactly spacious. It was a humble 4-bedroom colonial with peeling blue paint and a groaning porch swing where I'd huddle for hours, lost in books all by myself while inside. My parents lavished praise on whatever latest triumph Cassandra had pulled off. The first gut-wrenching memory of knowing I was always runner-up hit on my 7th birthday. My parents had sworn to throw a little party at the local skating rink. I'd invited 5 friends and was buzzing with thrill. But that morning Cassandra, then 12, dropped the bomb that she'd scored in last-minute audition for a local commercial. In a flash, my birthday vanished. We'll celebrate next weekend, Linda, my father muttered, hardly glancing at my crushed expression as he snatched the car keys. They never rescheduled. This vicious cycle haunted my entire childhood. My straight-A report card would get a quick peek and stuck on the fridge, only to be buried under Cassandra's B- artwork that very day. When I clinched the regional science fair in 8th grade, my parents bailed because Cassandra snagged a tiny role in the school play. You understand, right, Linda? Your sister needs our support. You're so independent anyway. My mother would coo, as if my forced self-reliance was an excuse to abandon me instead of a survival tactic I'd forged in the fire of neglect. Cassandra embodied everything my parents prized. She was stunning in that classic way, with her flawless blonde hair and piercing blue eyes mirroring our mother's. She was outgoing and adored, forever encircled by friends and fans. She chased fashion design, which thrilled our mother, who'd once dreamed the same. They'd vanish for weekends on shopping sprees, cackling over coffee, forging that intimate connection I ached for with every fiber of my being. Her perfect blonde hair and bright blue eyes matched our mother's. She was sociable and popular, always surrounded by friends and admirers. She pursued fashion design, which delighted our mother, who had once harbored similar ambitions. They'd spend weekends shopping together, giggling over coffee, sharing the bond one desperately craved. I was the outlier from day one. My deep auburn hair and intense green eyes set me apart like a stranger in my own family. While not ugly, I missed out on Cassandra's natural glow and easy charm. I sought refuge in pages and labs, igniting a fire for unraveling how the world ticked. By high school, I'd locked onto biomedical engineering. Gripped by the thrill of crafting tech that could snatch lives from death's grip, my studies became my armor. My desperate bid to snag my parents' elusive nod, I grinded without mercy, wide-eyed till 3 a.m. to nail every task to perfection. I dove into every academic club, volunteered at the hospital, and slaved part-time at the local pharmacy to polish my resume. The bone-deep fatigue felt justified, I convinced myself, if it cracked open their eyes to me at last. In junior year of high school, I earned National Merit Scholar finalist status. The ceremony loomed on a Thursday night. I nagged my parents for weeks, even scrawled it on the kitchen calendar. That evening I perched alone in the school auditorium, envy burning as other finalists got smothered in hugs and bouquets from their glowing kin. My parents? Off hauling Cassandra prom dress shopping, even with 6 weeks to spare. When I trudged home, gripping my certificate, my mother blinked. Oh, was that tonight? I'm sorry, honey, but you know how important prom is to your sister. After that blow, I quit banking on their presence, but the hope lingered like a shadow. Every victory turned into another frantic plea for validation. Each letdown forged steel in my soul. Yet I pushed on, gripping that naive kid's dream that enough wins would force their love to match what they showered on Cassandra. When my acceptance to the elite Johns Hopkins medical program landed in senior year of college, I raced 2 hours home to deliver it face to face. Chosen from a sea of thousands, with a partial scholarship honoring my synthetic tissue regeneration research, I envisioned fireworks, maybe proud tears. Instead, half-hearted pats. "That's nice, sweetie," my father droned, glued to the TV. My mother squeezed me briefly, then pivoted to Cassandra's hot new boyfriend from some stellar lineage. The letter vanished into my purse, my buzz popping like a burst balloon. I drove back to campus that night, pulling over once at a rest stop to sob before steeling myself and pressing on. That's when it sank in. Nothing would ever suffice. No feat would shift their gaze to me like it did to her. But graduation loomed, my last shot to spark their pride. Named valedictorian, the pinnacle of academic glory. This had to be it, they'd show. The weeks before were a whirlwind of bone-weary hype. As valedictorian, I had to nail a speech that fired up my peers and toasted our shared grind. I hunkered down endless nights at my cramped desk in my off-campus dive, wading through balled-up drafts to forge the ultimate words. Juggling final papers, killer exams, and prepping my med program move. Sleep was a ghost I chased in vain. Despite the scars of letdowns, I couldn't snuff the spark that graduation might finally draw them in, body and soul. 2 weeks out, I dialed home to lock in their yes. "Of course we'll be there, Linda," my mother said, her tone scattered amid rustling papers. "We wouldn't miss our daughter's graduation." "I'm speaking as valedictorian," I pressed, pride surging in my words. "They only choose one student from the entire graduating class." "That's wonderful, honey," she murmured, edging toward engaged. "Your father and I will be in the 4th row, right where you can see us." That vow fueled me through the brutal endgame. I envisioned their expressions as I rehearsed in the bathroom mirror, chasing my father's elusive grin and my mother's affirming tilt. After 22 years of clawing for their spotlight, this would be my raw triumph. The speech I'd poured my heart into brimmed with thanks and hope, including a heartfelt nod to the parents who'd stood by us through every twist of our academic paths. Dr. Jenkins, my research advisor and mentor, gave priceless input on my drafts. A sharp mind in her 50s, with silver threads weaving through her hair and warm eyes peering from no-nonsense glasses, she'd stepped in as the nurturing grown-up I'd missed at home. "This is stellar, Linda," she told me in our last review, her voice steady. "But is it really you speaking? It seems like you're scripting what ought to be said, not what burns to come out." Her insight hit hard and I weighed it. "I just want to make them all proud," I confessed, my voice cracking a bit. Dr. Jenkins fixed me with that knowing stare. "The speeches that shake souls rise from raw truth. Maybe think about the real mark you want to leave on your classmates." I dipped my head in agreement, but clung to my original words. It felt secure, shielded from exposure. I couldn't gamble on shattering the ideal scene I'd built in my mind, where my parents would at last gaze at me with the pure devotion they hoarded for Cassandra. The day before the big moment, I snatched my hand-picked dress from the dry cleaners. A sleek navy sheath that aged me up screamed success. I hit the salon after months away, blowing cash I didn't have on a pro style. I sorted my note cards, bundled my cap and gown, and spread it all out with obsessive care for dawn that night. As I drilled my speech one more desperate time, my best friend Emily rang. "Ready to slay tomorrow, rock star?" she bubbled, her tone all heat and hype. Emily, my sophomore roomie, knew my family mess inside out. She'd seen the heartbreaks up close, time and again, and loaned me her folks as backups when mine ghosted. "As ready as I can get," I shot back, faking steady, my gut churning over the words ahead. "You'll crush it," she vowed. "Mom and Dad are hauling signs with your mug to mortify you, right?" I cracked up, my chest warming at her parents' fire. "Thank them, but skip the signs." "No dice," she laughed. "Dad's got 'em sealed in plastic. And Mom's packing her fancy camera to tape your speech. She knows your parents will want a copy." My insides knotted like wire. Speaking of which, I should call them to confirm the details for tomorrow. After hanging up with Emily, I punched in my parents' number, scripting my lines in my head. It rang 4 times before Dad picked up, sounding scattered. "Hello." "Hi, Dad. It's Linda. I just wanted to make sure you have all the information for tomorrow. The ceremony starts at 10 o'clock, but family should arrive by 9:30 to get good seats." Right, he mumbled, distant. "The graduation thing." My pulse plummeted at his flatness. Yes, Dad. My college graduation. I'm valedictorian. Remember? Of course I remember, he snapped, a edge of irritation creeping in. Your mother has it on the calendar. We'll be there. Great, I forced out, battling the doubt in my throat. I'll text you the parking information. There's a special lot for families of graduates. Fine, he grunted. Is that all? We're just walking out the door for dinner. Yes, that's all, I whispered. See you tomorrow. Good night, he said, clicking off before I could breathe. I gawked at the silent phone, shoving down that old sting of being sidelined. They'd show tomorrow, I drilled into myself. They'd sworn this would change, that I bolted awake before my alarm on graduation day, faint light sneaking past my blinds. Despite the queasy nerves and drag from endless overnights, a thrill buzzed in my veins as I paced my place. This was the peak. Years of sweat crashing into one flawless dawn. I showered, layered on makeup with trembling precision, lingered to make it spotless. I twisted my hair like the pros taught, locked my cap down and eased into the dress. In front of the mirror I snapped phone pics, framing myself solo. No one to freeze the instant, but I'd claim it anyway. As I scooped up my notes and gown, my phone pinged, a text. My breath caught, picturing my parents en route. But the words iced my veins. Linda, something's come up. Dad and I are exhausted from the business trip that ran late last night. We won't be able to make the drive up this morning. So sorry, honey. Take lots of pictures. Love you. I scanned it thrice, brain refusing to latch on. They weren't coming. After vows, nudges, lifetimes of grind, they just weren't. I dropped to my bed's edge, phone gripped, a weird void swallowing me whole. When it splintered, the agony surged like a tidal wave. I lurched to the bathroom, slumped against the chill tiles, and unleashed the storm, raw, gut-heaving cries that racked me. That I'd bet everything this would flip, convinced valedictorian gold would drag them in. After 10 minutes of raw release, my phone buzzed. I swiped at my eyes. Emily. Hello. I croaked, the rawness leaking. Linda, what's wrong? Are you okay? Her worry sliced through. They're not coming, I choked, tears brewing fresh. They texted. They're too tired from their business trip. Those utter bastards. Emily exploded, fury blazing. After all you've bled, they can't haul 2 hours to watch you crown the class. Guess not. I tried joking, crashing hard. Hear me, she commanded, steel in her voice. This is your throne. You've clawed too fierce to let them poison it. My folks will film it all, and we'll feast after. You own this, with or without them. Her fire pierced the haze. Damn right, I'd forged this solo. Maybe it was poetic to seize it alone. You're right, I said, rising, eyeing my swollen reflection. Red rims, puffed lids, but ice and extra layers could mask it. I'll see you there. After patching my face, I grabbed my gear and bolted to the venue. Campus buzzed, morphed for the right. Families snapping, grads in every scenic nook. I wove through, ignoring my isolation amid the loving packs. In the staging zone, I mingled with peers, soaking congrats, trading jittery grins. As we hung fire, I doom-scrolled socials, nerves on edge. Then it slammed me. Fresh post, 20 minutes old. My parents beaming with Cassandra at a ritzy spa. Mom's caption stabbed. Much-needed relaxation day with our beautiful girl. Nothing more important than family time. The stab twisted like a blade. They weren't wiped. No trip hangover. They'd picked, cold, calculated, to spoil my sister, overcapping my epic climb. For a split second I couldn't draw air. The raw, ugly reality of their favoritism had never slapped me so openly, so viciously. All those years I'd spun excuses for them, whispering to myself that they were swamped, scattered, or just blind to what my wins really meant. But now? No more hiding behind lies. They got it crystal clear. They just didn't give a damn. As the raw jolt ebbed, a spark ignited deep inside me. The pain lingered, a throbbing wound in my core. But right beside it flared something fresh, rage. Clean, scorching rage that torched the haze of endless letdowns I'd choked on since I could remember. Right there, huddled with my classmates gearing up to toast our victories, I snapped. I yanked out my polished speech, the one crafted to dazzle my ghost parents, and I tore into revisions. The truth poured out now, brutal and bare like never before. To be why the time they summoned us to form the procession, I gripped a reborn script. one that screamed my reality instead of begging for nods I'd never snag. As I claimed my spot at the head, a weird serenity washed over me. Today was still my pivot, just not the fairy tale I dreamed. Instead of clawing for their love at last, I'd finally quit the chase. The ceremony unfurled with all the grandeur and ritual these rituals crave. We marched into the massive hall to the swell of pomp and circumstance, claimed our spots in crisp lines, and hunkered down for the parade of talks from school bigwigs. Through it all, I held ramrod straight, my revamped words crushed in my fist, my eyes darting over the crowd now and then, even knowing my folks were no-shows. I did lock on Emily and her crew, front and center with those vowed signs and lens poised. Her mom flashed me a bolstering thumbs up when our stares crossed, and amid the wreckage, a rush of raw thanks hit me for their rock-solid backing. As the university president strode to the mic to tee me up, my pulse hammered wild. This was it, the apex I'd bled for over 4 years, yet it twisted into something utterly alien from my visions. The president's boom echoed off the walls, reeling off my feats with real glow. Flawless GPA, papers in print, volunteer gigs, top roles, and that golden ticket to Johns Hopkins Med. Each one echoed endless grind, all sparked by that frantic yen for their stamp of approval. It is my great honor to present this year's valedictorian, Miss Linda Carter. He rapped, arm sweeping my way. The cheers crashed lively as I stood and strode to the stage. My knees held firm, shockingly, as I mounted the stairs and claimed the podium. Peering into that ocean of stairs, I caught outsiders beaming for their kin. I spotted mentors who'd steered me, pals who'd propped me up. My parents' gap yawned like a black hole, but it didn't crush anymore. My eyes snagged Emily's mom, taping as sworn. I knew bone deep my folks would catch this eventually. Cassandra would shove it their way or some kin would ping the link sniffing for drama. That certainty anchored me solid. Distinguished faculty, honored guests, and class of 2023. I launched, voice sharp and unyielding. We gathered today at a threshold, looking back at who we were when we started this journey, and forward to who we might become. I shoved my notes aside, the drilled lines spilling free now. The path that brought each of us to this moment is unique. Some of us were carried here on the shoulders of unwavering support. Others had to forge our own way, learning early that achievement is often a solitary journey. I halted, locking eyes across the room. What unites us is perseverance, the capacity to continue moving forward, even when the path is difficult, even when those we hoped would walk beside us choose a different route. A buzz rippled through the masses as they sniffed this wasn't your cookie-cutter valedictorian fluff. I stand before you today as someone who learned that external validation is a poor foundation for self-worth. For too long I measured my value through others' eyes, particularly those who could never see me clearly. My voice surged, raw feeling fueling it with power, not fragility, as they sensed this was not the standard valedictorian fare. I stand before you today as someone who learned that external validation is a poor foundation for self-worth. For too long, I measured my value through others' eyes, particularly those who could never see me clearly. My voice grew stronger, emotion lending it resonance rather than weakness. Today, I celebrate not just what I've accomplished, but who I've become in the process. Someone who no longer needs permission to recognize her own worth. Someone who understands that sometimes the people we most want to witness our journey are unable, or unwilling to do so. I looked directly into the camera Emily's mother held, knowing my next words would eventually reach my parents. To everyone who showed up today, thank you for recognizing the importance of bearing witness to achievement. Your presence is a gift that will be remembered long after the diplomas have been framed. I took a deep breath for the most important part. And to everyone who didn't show up for whatever reason, I said, my gaze steady and unflinching, this one's for you because in your absence I found my own strength. I learned that I am enough exactly as I am, whether or not anyone else recognizes it. A murmur ran through the audience, followed by the beginning of applause. I raised a hand slightly, indicating I wasn't finished. Class of 2023, as we move forward from this place, I hope you carry with you the knowledge that your worth is inherent. It exists independently of recognition or approval. The most important validation comes from within. I smiled then, genuine and free in a way I hadn't felt in years. Congratulations to all of us. Whatever comes next, we've proven we have the resilience to face it. Thank you. The applause began slowly, then built to a crescendo. People rose to their feet, first a few, then entire sections until the whole auditorium was standing. The ovation continued as I made my way back to my seat, professors nodding approvingly, fellow graduates reaching to touch my arm or shoulder as I passed. In that moment I felt a shift within myself, fundamental and irrevocable. For the first time in my life, I wasn't performing for an audience that would never appreciate the show. I was simply and authentically myself, and somehow that was enough to bring a room full of strangers to their feet. As I sat down, a profound sense of peace settled over me. Whatever happened next with my family, I had claimed this moment for myself, and no one could take that away. The ceremony concluded with the traditional tossing of caps and a room full of strangers to their feet. As I sat down, a profound sense of peace settled over me. Whatever happened next with my family, I had claimed this moment for myself, and no one could take that away. The ceremony concluded with the traditional tossing of caps and an explosion of cheers. I moved through the crowd of celebrating graduates, accepting congratulations and well wishes from classmates, many of whom had never spoken to me before my speech. There was a new respect in their eyes, a recognition that went beyond academic achievement. Dr. Jenkins found me among the throng, her eyes suspiciously bright behind her glasses. That, she said, gripping my shoulders firmly, was the most honest valedictorian speech I've heard in 30 years of teaching. I'm incredibly proud of you, Linda. Not just for your accomplishments, but for your courage. Her words touched me deeply. This was the maternal pride I had sought for so long, offered freely by someone who truly saw me. Emily and her family surrounded me next. Her father insisted on photos with their embarrassing signs, her mother hugging me tightly. We recorded everything, she assured me, and we've made dinner reservations to celebrate. No arguments were taking you out. I surrendered to their kindness, allowing myself to be shepherded to a local restaurant where they ordered champagne and toasted my success. My phone stayed eerily quiet all through dinner. No triumphant texts from my parents or sister lit up the screen. It wasn't until I stumbled back to my apartment, blissfully worn out and a touch tipsy from the champagne, that the alerts hit me like a gut punch. 3 missed calls from Mom, 2 from Dad, and a flurry of texts, all crammed into the last hour. What were you thinking with that speech? You've embarrassed the entire family. Call us immediately. I shoved the phone away, ignoring it. A tiny rebellion that roared huge inside me. For the first time, I wasn't scrambling to justify, grovel, or fix it all. Their storm over my words? That was theirs to weather alone. I was slipping my graduation gown onto its hanger when a furious banging rattled my door, jolting my heart into overdrive. Peering through the peephole, I spotted Cassandra, her flawless face twisted in fury. Bracing hard, I cracked the door. "What the hell was that?" she snarled, shoving past me into my space without a shred of invite. Her hair still gleamed from the spa glow-up, her high-end threads spotless. "Do you have any idea how upset Mom and Dad are right now?" "Hello to you too, Cassandra," I said, easing the door shut with forced calm. "Congratulations on your spa day. It looked relaxing." She whirled on me, face blazing red with outrage. "Don't be petty, Linda." "So, her designer outfit immaculate. Do you have any idea how upset Mom and Dad are right now?" "Hello to you too, Cassandra," I said, closing the door calmly. "Congratulations on your spa day. It looked relaxing." She spun to face me, cheeks flushed with indignation. "Don't be petty, Linda. So they missed one event. Big deal. Did you have to publicly humiliate them in front of everyone?" "I didn't name them," I pointed out. "I didn't even specifically say they weren't there. I spoke my truth, which is that I've spent my entire life seeking validation from people who were never going to give it." "That's ridiculous," Cassandra exclaimed. "Mom and Dad have always supported you." "Have they?" I asked quietly. "When? Give me examples, Cassandra. When have they ever put me first or even equal to you?" "They paid for your college," she shot back. "They paid the same amount they paid for yours," I corrected. "The rest came from scholarships I earned and jobs I worked while maintaining a perfect GPA. Jobs I wouldn't have needed if they'd given me the same financial support they gave you for your fashion program." Cassandra rolled her eyes. Here we go with the martyr routine. Poor Linda, always overlooked. Something in me snapped at her dismissal. Years of silently accepting my place erupted in a calm, detailed inventory of exactly how different our childhoods had been. They missed my 7th birthday party for your commercial audition. They skipped my National Merit Scholar ceremony for your prom dress shopping, 6 weeks before prom. When I got into the most prestigious medical program in the country, Dad didn't even look up from the television. I took a step toward her, my voice still measured but intense. They attended every single one of your fashion shows, but couldn't make time for my research presentation that won a national award. They helped you move into every apartment you've ever had, while I packed and unpacked alone. They call you just to chat, but I only hear from them when they need something or when I initiate contact. Cassandra's expression had changed, her anger giving way to uncertainty. Today they told me they were too tired from a business trip to attend my graduation where I was being honored as valedictorian. Then they posted pictures at a spa with you, proving that was a lie. They didn't even try to hide it, Cassandra. That's how little they thought of my feelings or my achievement. My sister sank onto my couch, the righteous indignation draining from her posture. I didn't know they told you they couldn't come because they were tired, she said quietly. They just said. They didn't even try to hide it, Cassandra. That's how little they thought of my feelings or my achievement. My sister sank onto my couch, the righteous indignation draining from her posture. I didn't know they told you they couldn't come because they were tired, she said quietly. They just said they wanted to treat me before my Fashion Week presentation next month. Of course they did, I said, not unkindly. They've never wanted you to see the disparity in how they treat us. That would require them to acknowledge it. Cassandra looked up at me, her eyes troubled. Have they really been that bad? Yes, I said simply. And I've spent my entire life trying to earn the love they give you freely. Today I finally realize that's never going to happen, and I need to stop trying. Silence fell between us, heavy with years of unspoken truths. Cassandra seemed to be processing, reevaluating countless memories through this new lens. I'm sorry, she finally said, her voice small. I never saw it. I never even looked for it. Why would you? I asked, sitting beside her. You were getting what you needed. That's not your fault. But I should have noticed, she insisted, tears forming in her eyes. I'm your sister. I should have seen how they treated you. I shrugged, suddenly exhausted. Maybe, but they're the parents. The responsibility was theirs, not yours. Cassandra wiped at her eyes, smearing her perfect makeup. What happens now? Now, I said. I stop orienting my life around winning their approval. I focus on my medical program and building a life that fulfills me whether or not they ever truly see me. My sister nodded slowly, then stood. I should go. I told them I was just running to the store. She paused at the door. For what it's worth, Linda, I am proud of you. I always have been, even if I didn't show it well. I nodded, accepting her words for what they were. A beginning, not a resolution. Thank you for coming, even if it was to yell at me. Cassandra gave a watery laugh. Your speech really was amazing. Brutally honest, but amazing. After she left, I stood in the center of my apartment, surrounded by the trappings of my achievement, my honors cords, my graduation cap, the framed acceptance letter to Johns Hopkins. For the first time, I looked at them not as attempts to earn love, but as testaments to my own determination and ability. They were enough. I was enough. And that realization, painful as its birth had been, felt like true freedom. The days following graduation were a storm of emotional turbulence. My parents' calls. I looked at them not as attempts to earn love, but as testaments to my own determination and ability. They were enough. I was enough. And that realization, painful as its birth had been, felt like true freedom. The days following graduation were a storm of emotional turbulence. My parents' calls and messages continued, growing increasingly demanding when I didn't immediately respond. When I finally answered my mother's call 3 days after the ceremony, her voice was tight with controlled anger. We need to discuss your behavior at graduation, she said without preamble. Your father and I are extremely disappointed. I'm sorry you feel that way, I replied. The script I practiced in my head helped me maintain composure. I spoke honestly about my experience. You humiliated us publicly, she countered. Everyone is talking about it. Mrs. Peterson called to ask if we were having family problems. I almost laughed at the irony. And what did you tell her? That you were being dramatic. Of course, my mother said that we've always supported you and you chose to twist things for attention. The accusation stung, but not as deeply as it once would have. That's not true, Mom, and I think you know it. But I didn't call you out by name and I won't do so now. My speech was about my journey, not about punishing you and Dad. We deserve an apology, she insisted. I took a deep breath. I'm not going to apologize for speaking my truth. What I will say is this. I'm setting a boundary. I won't engage in conversations that dismiss my feelings or experiences. If you want to have a relationship with me moving forward, it needs to be based on mutual respect. The silence that followed was profound. When my mother spoke again, her voice had chilled considerably. I don't recognize you anymore, Linda. This isn't how we raised you. Maybe that's the problem, I said quietly. Goodbye, Mom. I'm here when you're ready to really talk. I ended the call before she could respond, my hand trembling slightly, but my resolve firm. Diving into boundaries with my parents felt like uncharted wilderness. Heart-pounding terror mixed with this wild rush of freedom that left me breathless. Dad's call hit the next day. His tone all iron-fisted command, sharper than Mom's sneaky guilt trips. This nonsense has gone on long enough, he barked. Your mother is upset and frankly so am I. We've given you everything, and this is how you repay us. Dad? I cut in, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Can you name 3 events from my academic career that you attended? Just 3. The dead air on his end screamed louder than words. That's not fair, Linda. We were busy building the life you enjoyed. I lived that life, Dad. I know exactly what it was like and I'm not interested in pretending anymore. Either we can build a healthier relationship moving forward, or we can take some space while you decide if you're willing to acknowledge the reality of our family dynamic. My father's response was to hang up, a reaction that would have devastated me months earlier, but now only confirmed I was making the right choice. As June bled into July, I hurled myself into gearing up for my Baltimore leap, the kickoff of my med program looming like a lifeline. Emily jumped in to pack my apartment, dishing out heart-to-hearts and elbow grease in perfect sync. Have you heard from them? She probed one afternoon, bundling plates in newsprint. My parents. Not directly, I shot back. Cassandra texts occasionally. I think she's trying to process everything. She mentioned they're telling relatives I'm going through a phase, and that they're giving me space to mature. Emily let out a scornful huff. Unbelievable. They really can't take any responsibility, can they? Apparently not, I agreed, slamming tape over a box with a satisfying rip. But the weird thing is, I'm okay with that. I'm not waiting for them to validate my experience anymore. It was true. Each day without chasing their nod peeled away a suffocating skin I hadn't known was choking me. Sleep came deeper. Choices flowed from my gut, not their shadows. I unearthed pieces of me, buried quirks, hidden sparks, that I'd crushed under the weight of being their flawless trophy kid they might one day cherish. Right to be why mid-July. Mom dangled an olive branch, a dinner invite at their place. We miss you, her text blinked. Let's put this unpleasantness behind us and move forward as a family. I bit, but with ironclad rules. I'd like that, but moving forward means acknowledging the past, not pretending it didn't happen. The dinner dragged like nails on chalkboard, chit-chat forced and fragile as we tiptoed the minefield. My parents dodged my speech and our blowouts like ghosts, betting a shared meal would snap us back to the old script. Cassandra showed, but hushed, her gaze sharpened on them like she'd just woken up. She hijacked when Mom hogged the spotlight with Cassandra's fresh wins. Actually, I'd love to hear. Around the same table would reset everything to the familiar dynamic. Cassandra was present but unusually subdued, watching our parents with a new awareness in her eyes. She redirected the conversation when our mother tried to monopolize it with news of Cassandra's latest achievements. Actually, I'd love to hear more about Linda's research, she said pointedly after our mother spent 15 minutes discussing Cassandra's upcoming fashion showcase. The regenerative tissue work sounds fascinating. The look of surprise on our parents' faces might have been comical under different circumstances. They had no framework for engaging with my academic interests beyond surface platitudes. As the evening concluded without any meaningful resolution, I realized that true reconciliation would take far more time and willingness than a single dinner could provide. My parents were not yet ready to see the pattern, much less acknowledge their part in creating it. The following week, I received an offer for a specialized research track within my program, requiring an immediate move to Baltimore for summer preparation. It meant missing the family's annual Labor Day gathering at our grandparents' lake house, an event that had always highlighted the desperate treatment between Cassandra and me. In previous years, I would have declined the opportunity to avoid disappointing my parents. This time I accepted without hesitation, informing them of my decision rather than asking for their blessing. But it's tradition, my mother protested during our phone call. Everyone will be asking where you are. I'm sure you'll manage to explain my absence, I replied calmly. This opportunity is important for my career, and I'm taking it. The silence that followed was heavy with the recognition that our relationship had fundamentally changed. I was no longer the compliant daughter, desperate for scraps of approval. Before I left Michigan, Cassandra visited my nearly empty apartment, bringing coffee and an awkward determination to connect. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, she admitted, perched on a packing box since my furniture had already been sold, about how different our experiences were growing up. I started making a list of all the events in my life that Mom and Dad attended, and then tried to remember if they went to your equivalent moments. She looked up, genuine distress in her eyes. The disparity is staggering, Linda. I never saw it before, but now I can't unsee it. What will you do with that awareness? I asked, genuinely curious rather than accusatory. Cassandra sighed. I don't know yet. I've tried bringing it up with Mom, but she just changes the subject or tells me I'm being influenced by your negativity. But I know what I've seen now, and I'm sorry I was complicit. That awareness? I asked, genuinely curious rather than accusatory. Cassandra sighed. I don't know yet. I've tried bringing it up with Mom, but she just changes the subject or tells me I'm being influenced by your negativity. But I know what I've seen now, and I'm sorry I was complicit in it for so long. Her apology, unexpected and sincere, touched me deeply. Thank you, I said simply. That means a lot. As August arrived and I prepared for my final departure, I made the difficult decision to decline the family's Christmas invitation preemptively. My mother's reaction was predictably dramatic, accusing me of tearing the family apart and holding grudges. I held firm, explaining that I needed time and space to focus on my own well-being. It wasn't punishment, I assured her, but self-preservation. I couldn't continue pretending that being around them wasn't emotionally damaging until real changes occurred. That boundary, more than anything else, made clear the transformation I had undergone. The daughter they knew would never have prioritized her own mental health over family harmony. The woman I was becoming understood that sometimes the most loving choice you can make for yourself is to step back from those who cannot see you clearly, even when those people are your parents. 1 year after my graduation, I stood in the atrium of Johns Hopkins Medical Research Center, waiting to receive an award for my work on synthetic tissue regeneration. The past 12 months had been transformative in ways I could never have anticipated. Immersed in challenging work that genuinely excited me, surrounded by colleagues who valued my contributions, I had flourished. My contact with my parents had been minimal, limited to brief phone calls on holidays and the occasional text message. Each interaction was cordial but distant, neither of us quite knowing how to bridge the chasm that had opened between us. I no longer blamed them with the intensity one once had, understanding that they were products of their own upbringings and limitations. But understanding didn't mean accepting the same treatment that had diminished me for so long. As I scanned the gathering crowd, a familiar figure caught my eye. Cassandra, elegant as always, but somehow softer around the edges, was making her way toward me. I hadn't expected her to come, hadn't even told my family about the award, not wanting to set myself up for another disappointment. Surprise, she said, smiling uncertainly as she reached me. Dr. Jenkins contacted me. Hope that's okay. Of course, I replied, genuinely pleased to see her. But Baltimore is a long way from Michigan just for an afternoon ceremony. Cassandra shrugged. My little sister is receiving a prestigious award. Where? Disappointment. Surprise, she said, her smile wavering as she approached me. Dr. Jenkins reached out to me. Hope that's all right. Of course, I answered, truly thrilled to see her. But Baltimore's a world away from Michigan for just an afternoon event. Cassandra shrugged. My little sister is getting a prestigious award. Where else would I be? That straightforward line, so unlike anything she'd have said a year ago, hit me hard, tears springing up unbidden. We'd talked often over the past year, our bond shifting into something real and even, but this move screamed volumes. After the ceremony, we huddled in a quiet spot at the reception, diving into the months since we'd last met face to face. "I've been in therapy," Cassandra whispered, twisting her water glass in her hands, "digging into the family mess and my part in it." "That's courageous," I said, meaning every word. "How's it feeling?" "Agonizing," she confessed with a twisted grin. "But vital. I've uncovered so much about myself, about Mom and Dad, how they echoed their own childhood scars without even knowing." I nodded, having unearthed the same truths in my own sessions. "And how are things with you and them?" "Changed," Cassandra mused, her voice thoughtful. "I've been drawing lines too, calling them on it when they belittle you or brush off your wins. It hasn't won me any favors." I gripped her hand, overwhelmed by her standing up for me when I wasn't there. "Thank you. It must be tough." "It is," she admitted. "But it's the right thing. And oddly, I think it's shifting things." They've begun to pause and think, especially Dad. Last month, he asked if I believed they'd favored me growing up. The bombshell jolted me. "What did you tell him?" "The raw truth," Cassandra said plainly. "That they absolutely did, over and over, pouring emotional backing and focus into me while starving you of it, hyping my small victories while ignoring your huge ones." I exhaled sharply, not realizing I'd been holding my breath. "And how did he take it?" "Silent for ages," she recalled. Then he dropped something that floored me. "I think we owe your sister an apology." Those words slammed into me like a wave. After years of my pain being downplayed or erased, that bare admission shook me to my core. "Do you think he meant it?" "I do." Cassandra nodded. "Whether Mom's there yet, I'm not as sure, but they've been talking it out, and I think they miss you in their own twisted way." 2 weeks later, I got an email from my father, a long, soul-searching note that clearly cost him dearly to write. He opened up about his harsh, distant parents and how he'd unknowingly chased approval through Cassandra, who mirrored him. He owned up to exact times he'd let me down, details I'd shared with her that she'd obviously passed on. "None of this erases the hurt we inflicted," he wrote near the close. "But I hope it shows it wasn't because you didn't deserve our love and care. The fault was ours, not yours. If you're open to it, I'd love a shot at a better bond with my incredible younger daughter." My mother's path to owning it dragged on longer. It took 3 months after Dad's email for her to call, her tone raw and exposed like never before. "I watched a video of you presenting your research," she said. "You were so composed, so eloquent, all these sharp minds hanging on my daughter's every word, and it hit me. I know next to nothing about this passion of yours." "It's not too late to catch up," I ventured warily. "I'd like that," she replied, "if you'll show me." These fragile moves toward mending weren't swift or flawless. Missteps lingered, old habits clawing back now and then. But real tries emerged from everyone, a drive to forge something fresh from the wreckage. I stepped into this fragile revival with guarded hope, no longer chained to their nods of approval, but ready for ties rooted in true respect over strings-attached affection. My values stood firm without their stamp, a battle-scarred liberty that reshaped my whole world. And my second year of med school, I started guiding younger students, especially those crushed by family pressures or zero backing. Their tales often mirrored mine, and I drew deep satisfaction from giving the empathy and affirmation I'd craved at their stage. "How did you push through?" one sharp-minded student pressed after baring her soul about her own cold parents. "How did you start trusting yourself when the ones meant to do it first wouldn't?" I weighed her words deeply. I realized that chasing outside thumbs-up hands over your strength. Your worth stands alone no matter if anyone spots it, even your folks. She nodded, letting it sink in. "But it still stings." "Yeah," I agreed, "it does. That ache might not vanish entirely, but it quits ruling you once you stop scrambling for love that ought to flow free." As the words left me, their power rang true in my bones. The sting of those early snubs would forever weave into my tale, but it no longer starred as the lead. I'd crafted a life brimming with purpose-driven work, real connections, and self-embrace. Not in spite of my parents' flaws, but from the grit those trials hammered into me. The trek from frantic approval hunting to solid self-value had been brutal yet essential. In claiming my voice that graduation day, unleashing truth to a hall of unknowns and the lens that'd later reveal to my parents what they'd skipped. I'd kicked off becoming holy me. Now, eyeing my path in medical research, I chase no more for what might snag their praise. I trail my own spark, fire, and principles. I hold lines that shield my peace while staying ajar to our shifting family ties. I see their blind spots never mirrored my flaws. What would you do if you were in my position? Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who couldn't see your true value? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that their worth isn't determined by others' recognition. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, your value exists whether or not anyone else acknowledges it.